Streaming to you live on Facebook, YouTube, X, Twitch. Welcome to this live edition of the Carolina Weather Group for this Wednesday, November the 8th, 2023. I'm James Brierton in Charlotte, and that's Frank Strait there in Columbia, South Carolina. Hello to all of you who are listening on our audio podcast. Frank, you've got the tropics behind you, but I think we're nearing the end of the tropical season, but we're turning our thoughts and our eyes now to the next encroaching weather danger, which is this drought, which has been persistent and growing and now is turning into a bit of a fire danger. I could talk a whole lot about what's happening here in North Carolina, including ongoing wildfires and the threat of air quality and burn bans. But let me ask you, because I'm a curious man, what's it like in South Carolina? Are you guys dealing with the same problems that we have here in North Carolina?
A lot of the state is indeed, and it's not just it's not just a little drought. We in the climate office here in South Carolina. That's my day job, working for the state climate office, and the drought monitoring program is a part of the climate office, and the guy that sort of herds the cats with the drought response in South Carolina is running around like a decapitated chicken right now, because he's very busy in herding those cats and with the drought resource committee.
Sure.
And getting the reports together for that. But as you can see here from the current U.S. drought monitor with South Carolina highlighted, the northern half of the state basically is in some sort of drought. It hasn't been quite as dry over the low country, most of the central Savannah River area and the lower part of the PD region. But the upper part of the state, yes, it's been dry. And we're in the severe drought condition over a lot of areas close to the North Carolina line, basically from Charlotte Metro over to west of the Greenville-Spartanburg area. So that area has been very dry. I can vouch for that, as I've been in that area recently a couple times. Of course, my family originally from Rock Hill, but I'm in Polk County. They live in Polk County now, and Cherokee County. And I can tell you, having visited up there a few times lately, it's real dry.
It's crazy dry. I'm going to replace the map that you had with North Carolina with the map of North. Let me try that again. I'm going to replace your map of South Carolina with this map of North Carolina, where you can see what was your upstate worsening conditions just carries right on over into North Carolina, spilling over to severe drought in some places, especially in those western North Carolina foothills and mountains. And Frank, you know this, and I'll clue our viewers and listeners in too. We get a new drought monitor tomorrow on Thursday, and we haven't had a lick of rain since the last one came out last Thursday. So I'm not feeling too optimistic that this is going to get any better anytime soon.
Yeah, I guess the rumor has it there could be a D3 area, an extreme drought area added with the outlook tomorrow. So we'll see what actually happens. But I hear that could happen.
I wouldn't be surprised. It is posing a problem for all sorts of people, including, we'll talk about Henderson County here in a moment and the ongoing Poplar Drive Fire. We also know that Duke Energy is asking folks to voluntarily conserve water, because Duke Energy makes so much of our electricity using water from their hydro plants. And as water levels are coming down, at least here in the Charlotte area, Catawba River, Lake Norman, Mountain Island Lake, Lake Wiley, they're asking folks to conserve water what they can. It's voluntary. There's no enforcement of it right now, but they're asking people to take some actions. If you take a boat out in the water, you probably already noticed that some of the boat ramps are closed, or some of the boat ramps are lower than they usually are. And Frank, I guess the good news is we actually did end the growing season, at least up in my neck of the woods here last week, when we had some freezing temperatures at night. So I've stopped watering the lawn. I've stopped watering the garden. That right there alone will be some water conservation. Did you guys end your growing season in South Carolina, or is it still hanging on a little bit?
In parts of the state, yes. Down in the low country, mostly right along the coast, yes. So the growing season continues there. But the rest of the state, yeah, it got below freezing with the last cold snap. It got down to 26 at the Columbia Metro Airport. Was not that cold everywhere. Like, for example, I live in town in Columbia. Well, I don't live in Columbia, but I live in
for all intents
densely
and purposes.
populated area. Yeah, I have a Columbia address. So, and I'm in a relatively warm spot, and it didn't get below freezing at all during the last cold snap where I am. So there are pockets where freezing temperatures haven't occurred, but a frost did occur. Actually, a couple of them, two or
Sure.
three. So, for all intents and purposes, the growing season's over for about at least 80% of South Carolina,
Yeah,
probably
that'll
more.
help automatically conserve some water. They are asking you if you are washing your cars or still doing irrigation or taking long showers to try to conserve some of that where you can. Because look at this picture, Frank, that was posted to the Charlotte subreddit. This is taken at Lake Norman and Mountain Island Lake. That is supposed to be an island, but there's a land bridge out to the island because the water level in the lake is so low.
One does not see that often.
Oh, no, I kind of want to take a drive up here to Lake Norman State Park and check this out for myself. I can remember as a kid, like you go to the
Yeah.
beach, right? And the sandbar appears and then you go out. It reminds me of that, except for more concerning. So we will have an interview coming up in a few minutes with Duke Energy, talking a little bit about what their operations are like. Let's talk a little bit, Frank, about the fire danger, because these things kind of go hand in hand with the lack of rain, with the dry vegetation, with the dry leaves on the ground. We are seeing more and more images like this one here that the North Carolina Forest Service posted on X, the platform formerly known as Twitter, earlier. And this is the Poplar Drive Fire in Henderson County. It remains at 431 acres on this Wednesday night, 15% contained. We'll talk about what that means in a minute. Firefighters have identified a 2 to 2.5 acre area of unburned vegetation near Kyles Creek Road, and strategic firefighting operations will continue into Thursday and probably for some days to come. You can see a firefighter here drenching the forest floor, and you can also see them working around trying to expose some of those hot spots, trying to find all of those hot embers. Looking at their more detailed press release on their website, they're really great at giving us all sorts of information. There are a couple key facts that if you're not familiar with this, I did want to let you know, which is that the dry and sunny weather conditions over the Carolinas through Thursday will be a factor not only for firefighters trying to stay cool, but these fires being able to continue to burn. The burn ban is in effect for 30 counties across western North Carolina. This was expanded on this Wednesday to come as far east as the I-77 corridor, Charlotte, Mecklenburg County, Iredell, and everything to the west of that. That means no campfires. That means no outdoor flames, regardless of whether or not you have a permit. Barbecuing and grilling, Frank, is still okay if that's a thing you like to do in November. But across these 30 counties, they don't want to see any flames outside because of how quickly a fire could be started. And, I think it's a good precaution. It does seem like something that could happen. My neighbor was burning leaves the other day, and it made me quite nervous.
Yes, exactly. It's not a good time, especially if you're in that D2 area, to be burning stuff outside. Uh, that's just too risky. But really, everywhere across North and South Carolina, it's been relatively dry. Few pockets along the coast where the drought isn't too bad still, but most places are dry, and burning leaves probably a bad idea. And in addition to that, you need to be careful with things. I mean, sure, grilling's okay, and just because it's cold doesn't stop me. When I lived in Pennsylvania, it could be 0 outside, I'd still be grilling steaks.
That was you?
I just like good steaks. But anyway, I digress. But you do have to be careful, especially if it's a
Sure.
charcoal grill. You don't want any embers to go popping out anywhere.
Yep.
So you have to be careful with that. You have to be careful with things that can start a fire, cigarette butts and so forth. You have to be careful where you park your car. We have leaves coming off the trees,
So many.
as we've just mentioned. And if you park your car over a bunch of dry leaves, that catalytic converter that's 1,000 or so degrees might start that fire right there and burn your car up with the leaves,
I was thinking
which we
about
don't want that to happen.
ATVs. Things
That
that
too.
even have engines even more exposed, even lower to the ground, especially in this
Yeah.
nice weather. I could see that being a problem. And, we were talking about this Poplar Drive fire. It is continuing to threaten homes. 1 or 2 homes have already been damaged. 2 firefighters suffered minor injuries. So this is no small deal. This is serious business. So the cause of the fire is under investigation, as is several other fires burning across the southeast. And it's just like, don't even bother, folks. Like, just please do take precaution. Joseph Nevin's
Right.
watching with us tonight on YouTube. He's saying 15%. Wow, they're making some progress. They certainly are. And I did want to talk a little bit, remind folks what that means. It doesn't mean, and I think Joseph knows this, but I want to let everybody else know that it doesn't mean that 15% of the fire is extinguished. When they say contained, they literally mean they are digging a firewall, a trench all around the burning area. And so they are literally containing it in an area. They are essentially saying this area will be sacrificed by this fire as it continues to spread. But to try to keep it from spreading even beyond that, we are building a containment area. So their containment area is at 15%. Once they get it to 100%, then they'll have it surrounded. Not foolproof. There have been times where fires have jumped containment lines, but that is one of their modes of operating.
Right, and hopefully that does get that fire contained. I'm guessing that's the worst one in the Carolinas right now. Just looking at South Carolina's dashboard, and we're in good shape in South Carolina now, except for the smoke from that fire near Hendersonville that's drifting in at times and lowering our air quality. But we do have we don't have any big fires in South Carolina right now, and hope it stays that way.
Yeah, I'm glad you popped up with the South Carolina Forestry Commission showing in terms of wildfire activity. They've got 20 contained fires there. As far as North Carolina goes, you're right. This Henderson County one is one of the biggest fires. It's not the only fire, though, because if we switch on over here and I kind of show you this picture that was posted by my daytime colleague, WCNZ Chief Meteorologist Brad Penovich, you can see some of the wildfire smoke not only coming out of some spots in both the Carolinas, but also portions of Virginia and Georgia and Alabama as well too. And Frank, I think you hit the money on the head. People who live really close to these fires have to worry about the fire. All of us have to worry about the smoke and the air quality. In a year where we all learned way too much about Canadian wildfire smoke, we are again starting to see now air quality in the Carolinas beginning to tick up a little bit as we are seeing more and more of this smoke kind of move on through. And with the sunny, beautiful weather, there's really nothing much to move it along.
That's right. There's not a whole lot of wind right now, and not a lot of moisture either. So, unfortunately, for the short term, we're stuck. Good news, we do at least South Carolina looks to have a little bit of rain on the way for this weekend. Probably not a ton of it. Nothing that will really bust the drought, but some rain, and some rain's better than no rain.
Yeah, take a look at these pictures from Virginia. Peter Forrester tweeted these from the Quaker Run fire in Shenandoah National Park. It's one of the largest fires burning across several states. And just look at the immense flames. You can see it from a distance glowing. Reminds me of the Pilot Mountain fire from a couple years back. And I know our own Scotty Powell was saying before the show that this season, this fire season that we have this fall, is beginning to remind him of just a couple years ago when he was out covering wildfires in the western North Carolina mountains. And so hopefully we can get some more rain. We know it's a little bit's in the forecast, as Frank just mentioned, and maybe we can get some more if we do some rain dances and get lucky, because otherwise this is going to get worse before it gets better, and that is what I fear.
Right, and there's promising things in the long range forecast. We have an El Nino going on. Mm-hmm. Typically, El Nino winters are on the cool side and on the wet side. The stronger the El Nino, the wetter it tends to be in the southeast. But oftentimes with El Nino, the wet season or the wet part of that doesn't really kick in until the end of December or in January. So we may have another month of these dry conditions before we start to see the El Nino pattern kick in.
Yeah. I know we could be looking in for some really cold rain this winter. And I say that as opposed to snow. Maybe some snow, probably lots of cold rain. We did a show a week or so back here in our feed talking about this NOAA winter weather outlook. They'll actually have an update coming out in the next few weeks as well, too. Those temperatures being just a hair above normal, maybe the moisture as well, too, as we're in that El Nino setup. But it almost feels like it can't get here soon enough. Hopefully I don't regret those words later, Frank. But as we're sitting here right now, just watching everything dry out, I'm like, oh, no, please send us some rain.
Yeah, exactly. Or snow would be nice too. Snow melts slowly, trickles into the soil, so you get your most bang for the buck with a snowstorm. but probably none of that for
No snow.
November and December anyway. And one of the things with El Nino, even though the winter tends to be on average cooler, December tends to be warm, and then it gets cold in January and February. So
Yeah.
that's how that balances out. But hopefully we can get some rain. Cautiously optimistic for snow, even in South Carolina this year. The El
Putting you on the
Ninos
record.
the last few years we've had La Nina, and it's really hard to get snow in a La Nina. We did at least once back in 22. No snow at all, as best I can tell, in South Carolina last winter. But with an El Nino, that changes. So I think we got a good chance. Hopefully it'll work out. We've had some big snowstorms in El Nino years in the past. It's one of the things I've been looking up for the season outlooks I did. The big 73 blizzard, that was during an El Nino year. The big 88 snowstorm, that was El Nino. So hopefully we can get a decent snowstorm this year.
I will tell you, looking at what people are watching from the Carolina Weather Group in our archive on the YouTube channel, Frank, they are watching our episode where you and Melissa talk about the 1973 snowstorm. So folks haven't checked that out yet, you can go check it out. But no snow in the short term, barely any rain in the short term. Here is the National Weather Service's Weather Prediction Center QPF forecast for the next 7 days, looking at just the precipitation. And at most in the Carolinas, we're probably looking at half an inch. Maybe.
Right. Yeah. Not a lot. I've been looking at that too. And some of the model outputs, this is the GEFS ensemble here. And the ensemble means about an inch to 1 inch and 2/10. There, the Canadian ensemble, about the same, a little bit more along the coastal areas. European model has a little bit more moisture for us over the next 2 weeks. It's closer to 2 inches over the western part of the Carolinas, where that sure would be nice. Hope that works out. But that's not the consensus of the models at all. So hopefully we can get more rain than just the minor event that looks to be coming this weekend.
Well, let's talk about the weather pattern we're in right now, because here in Charlotte today, we broke another record, the 6th time this year. Charlotte Douglas International Airport has either tied or broken a record for high temperature. 81 degrees today was the temperature here in Charlotte, breaking the 2020 record of 79 degrees, kind of fitting into that pattern of globally warm temperatures. We've seen it month after month globally, and we're seeing it here on a local level as well too. I know, Frank, you said you guys tied a record today in Columbia. Was that right?
That's correct. We got to 84 at Columbia Metro Airport. That tied the record for the date. Just doing a little bit of checking around. Charleston did not break their record high today. I see they tweeted that earlier, that they got to 84 like Columbia did, but their record's 85. So no record there. I think Augusta came up short. Of course, that's in Georgia, but you could throw a baseball into South Carolina from the airport there across the Savannah River. So haven't heard from Florence or Myrtle Beach. Shane Scotty's not here to since that would be his wheelhouse, and not sure about GSP either. But we did manage to tie that record in Columbia today.
Well, I know here in Charlotte, our afternoon high temperatures are normally in the 60s this time of year. We were in the 80s, which is slightly insane. And the record was not that old, right? So when you think about all of the warm records we've been getting, it's not too surprising to me that we knocked one down that was only from a couple years ago.
Right.
Wow, incredible stuff. So it's hard to believe just last week we were talking about frost. We went from 84 degrees 2 weekends ago to cold snap to now we're back to summer. Where's that meme that says like fall 1, summer 2, back to summer again, back to fall? we're somewhere in fake summer version 3, I think.
Yeah, I want to say it was Sunday morning that it was 26 here in Columbia, and then today it was 84. But it is the season for that. During these transition seasons, you get the big temperature turnaround. So
that's right. If you don't like the weather here in the Carolinas, just wait a minute. I want to pop up another picture from Twitter here. This is showing those drought conditions. This is Lake Wiley in South Carolina. It is so dry. You can see where the water is supposed to be. If you're listening to our audio podcast, we're looking at kind of mud extending out, low water levels. I think this is even maybe a dock there in the background that is The boats maybe even be up on the ground. I've seen it on the Catawba River crossing I-85 between Mecklenburg and Gaston County. So again, all of these waterways are managed by Duke Energy, which has hydro plants and dams to kind of control the flow out of each dam down into the next series of rivers, down to the next lake, to help them manage power generation. I caught up with Duke Energy to understand a little bit of what the drought is doing to their operation. Take a listen.
What would water restrictions look like for a homeowner?
For a homeowner, it means that we're asking you to only do your landscape irrigation on Tuesdays and Saturdays. It may also mean that we ask you to conserve energy, because that also helps us to conserve water, and to just overall maybe manage when you're doing your laundry a little differently, maybe not run quite as many loads of that, or dishes, things along those lines.
What does successful water conservation do on your end? How does that benefit the system?
So the stages of the low inflow protocol are based on defined triggers, and one of those triggers happens to be reservoir storage. So if we're conserving water, then there is more water in the reservoir to be able to help us to manage that a little better.
To help set this up, how many stages to this program are there, and what does it kind of look like operationally from this beginning phase to maybe some of the more aggressive, more severe stages later?
So there are 5 stages of the low inflow protocol. So it starts with 0 and ends in 4. And so we're at stage 1, which is the second of those stages. And so during this time, we will notify our water users that there are voluntary restrictions. We will reduce it to 2 days a week or less of irrigation, and we'll ask people to reduce water by 3 to 5%. By the time we get to stage 4, which hopefully doesn't happen, then we'll be notifying customers of emergency water use restrictions. That'll be no outdoor use, and we're asking the reduction in water use by 20 to 30%.
What I'm presuming is a silver lining, as we are hearing about voluntary water restrictions, is that a lot of the growing season has now ended. A lot of the lawn irrigation has probably ended. What does this program look for you guys like in the winter months versus the summer months?
We have different levels that are managed in our reservoirs when we'll call it the off season. It's not the recreation season. So we're not having as many people using the recreation activities in our lakes and river system. And so that does help us as well, because we will be having to reduce those recreation flows to be able to maintain the water levels where they need to be. So we'll also see differences there. Additionally, some of the boat ramps are closing. We'll be able to maintain those a little differently during the winter months because of that recreation use too. And so those recreation flows might look a little different right now. Some of the boat ramps might be closed. We'll do regular surveillance of all of our access areas to make sure that we have safe water levels for people to be able to get in and out of the boat ramps. And so we will maintain those a little differently than we would have during the summer months. But it also means that thankfully people aren't watering their grass as often. They're not trying to keep so many flower beds alive. Same with vegetable gardens, but also with our major agricultural use.
In this time period, if I am a recreation user, let's pretend I have a boat, what steps should I be taking to plan accordingly and stay up to date?
So for recreators, for water users, we do manage our access areas a little differently when we're in the low inflow protocol. We are making sure that we can get boats in and out of these boat ramps safely, with minimal, if any, property damage. That's always the goal. And so you'll want to make sure that you're looking at our Lakeview mobile app, which is free to download on your app store, or dukeenergy.com/lakes to be able to see where those closures might be in advance. Right now, we have closures at 4 of our boat ramps. And so those could change based on water conditions.
There you had it. I have an opportunity this week, Frank, to catch up with Duke Energy, who again controls so much of the waterways. I know sometimes people might be cursing under their breath when they go to put their boat in the water. And they're like, "Ah, where's my water?" And it all has to be managed. It has to be managed when the water is low. And it also has to be managed when the water is high. They also, do those releases of water, excess water out of the lakes when we are anticipating a big rain event, and how foreign that concept seems at this particular moment in time.
Right. Yeah, there's much work to be done, whether it's very wet or very dry. So,
yeah,
especially when you've got to deal with burning bans and things like that. By the way, if you live in South Carolina, if you're burning stuff outdoors, you have to notify the Forestry Commission in advance. Keep that in mind. You can do it from their website, but not everybody knows that, and you should, because you don't want to get in trouble, do you?
You do not want to get in trouble. That is an excellent point. And I know for our burn ban here in North Carolina, it is finable. You may have to pay us a fine if you get caught violating the burn ban. And you might also have to pay for the response. So if you start a big fire, you might have to liquidate that savings account. So
yes, same deal in South Carolina. It's just, I'm not sure if the North Carolina forestry people have a requirement that you notify them in advance, but even when it's not dry, you still have to notify them a day in advance.
I won't pretend to be an expert on what requires notice and what doesn't, but I do know right now they are taking no new permit applications and have suspended all existing applications for all of those 30 counties, essentially from I-77 to the west. They have it. All right, we'll keep you updated on the drought conditions. Again, a drought monitor drops on Thursday from the USDA and affiliates. We'll have that on our social media platforms, and I'm sure we'll be talking about it some more next week. Hey, before we go this week, a reminder that you can join us. We're joining forces for a good cause, and we're unifying with our friends at Other Weather Podcasts. So join us on Saturday, November the 18th, as we support the American Red Cross. Carolina Weather Group, Stormfront Freaks, Chaser Chat, and Weather Brains will be streaming for 12 straight hours on YouTube, Facebook, and X to support the American Red Cross and all they do for disaster relief. So if you like this show and you thought that 30 minutes wasn't long enough, then boy, do I have an early holiday present for you on November 18th. And Frank, I'm happy to announce, and I think some of these might be news to you, we can announce some of the guests that are scheduled to appear on our 12-hour-long telethon. The Weather Channel's Jim Cantori is scheduled to appear. We also are going to talk to Ginger Z from ABC. She is scheduled to appear. Brett Adair, Storm Chaser Extraordinaire, along with our friend Chris Jackson. We have a very cool Storm Chaser hour, I will tell you. It's going to be really, if you're into storm chasing, we got a whole special hour for you. Mark Suddeth, speaking of storm chasers, the hurricane man himself, based out of the Wilmington area here in North Carolina, is scheduled to appear. Reed Timmer. I mean, please, folks, mark your calendar.
This is an all-star lineup.
This is as all-star. It's the who's who of the weather fandom.
Yeah,
I have so many more
rock stars here.
I could keep showing, but I feel like that is a good tease right there. And I'm going to keep teasing people over the course of the next week and a half.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's going to be lots of fun. Again, it's all for good cause. There'll be donations, secure financial donations. There'll be a QR code and a link. You can go straight to the American Red Cross's website to donate, but we do have a special portal so that we can track how much all of the weather podcast fandom fundraises. It'll be 10 to 10 Eastern time, Saturday.
12 hours of weather podcasts in a whole day. 24 times the length of the average Carolina Weather Group show. And even 6 times the length of the average Weather Brain show.
I know, and they have the longest shows. So we're looking forward to it, and we hope you will join us. We also hope for some rain. So if you know of a way to make that happen, folks, we would appreciate it. But until then, Frank, it was good to see you. I guess enjoy the sunny weather and take a little break from work in the afternoons and go eat lunch outside. That's my advice.
Absolutely. The weather's perfect for that. It would be nice if we could get a rainy day every now and then.
Every now and then. We hope. I'm James. That's Frank. Thanks for listening and subscribing. Oh, by the way, if anybody knows Steve Holmes, He's one of our Patreon supporters. Steve, if you're listening to this, I know I sent you an email that sounded and probably looked like spam, but this hat and this cup are yours because we picked you last week as our super Patreon supporter. And so I'm interested in mailing this to you. I will try messaging you again. Scrolling at the bottom of the screen is the names of all our other Patreon supporters who, for just $1, help to pay our subscription fees and the business fees we have to keep this show running. And if you're not Steve and you want to order your own Carolina Weather Group swag in time for the holidays, there's a link and a QR code right now on the screen. And use the code HOLIDAY to get 10% off. HOLIDAY. You can pick out your own hats. They come in multicolor. Frank and I both look great in hats. So we're going to go shop. That's what we're going to give everybody for holidays this year, Frank. We'll just give all our loved ones Carolina Weather Group swag.
Yeah, excellent idea. My dad would probably love it. He likes hats.
Who doesn't? Who doesn't? All right. Good night again. Talk to you real soon. Bye-bye.
Bye, y'all.